Moderation helps everyone feel safe. Close that. All right. Well, folks, here we are. I'm going live. This is going to be recorded and actually put into our webinar press and broadcast tomorrow at our official time, Thursdays at 10 o'clock. But I wanted to go ahead and get some content done. And coincidentally, when I do these and I pre-record them and then I put them into the webinar press, typically what I do is I start the webinar press. I get it going right through the Manana No Mas website, and then when I play it, I'm there for the comments. And so I have found my own work style works really well with this because while I'm talking, I'll see people like James Lau come in and stuff, and sometimes I see it and I can interact with them, and that's great. But if I want to focus on a topic and then also want to interact with people, sometimes it's better if I let the video focus on the topic and then I focus on the interaction. And so for my personal work style, it's been working out really good. I told you guys a couple of months ago that when I got that bill from StreamYard, I was like, I got to find another way to broadcast our messages. I got to find, we have some people following us. What do we do with that? Let's let's do it through Manana No Mas and let's see how this goes. And so we put out the webinars. We invite people to pre-register, and then they can come into the website. They join our mail list. Like all these things start to work together. And so the idea is by building this like network of stuff, we're able to keep things tight and give people the value-added information that I think makes a lot of sense. So I titled this one, and hold on, it's hot in here. I gotta turn this on. Hang on. There we go. Oh, that feels so good already. I got one of those Arctic Air fans, so it's tall and thin, and it's like gets all of me. So I really enjoy it. So anyway, beautiful, beautiful day outside today. It was quite honestly, it was inspiring. So I had a cup of coffee. I went outside with my dog. The sprinklers were running. My backyard, compared to where I've lived before, I know it sounds like I'm bragging, but this backyard to me is like a park. I go out there. I got half an acre of grass. I mow it. I keep it nice. We got the sprinkler going. Having a cup of coffee. The yard's full of birds and squirrels and the dogs running around having a blast. That to me is just an awesome moment. But today, while I'm in the middle of that awesome moment, we see a lot of things. So a couple of days ago, it came out that, and this is not meant to be a political talk. This is to open with. Okay, so don't panic. I'm not going to go down some weird rabbit trail on you. A couple of days ago, Kash Patel says, "Oh no, Epstein absolutely killed himself. Here's this video with a minute missing from it. And client list, there's no client list. There's no indication anywhere that he stored any records of any of the famous, powerful people that he made billions of dollars from. So that's not there. But Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail for trafficking minors to nobody. So that's there. And then all over the internet this morning, we're hearing about how this company called Rainmaker um, cloud seeded 2 days before the giant floods in Texas. And then they say the CEO of the company gets on a show, I think with Steve Bannon or something like that. I didn't see the show. I don't watch the show. But he gets on the show and says, "Oh no, we didn't have anything to do with that flood. We just cloud seeded to increase the precipitation of the region, but we didn't have anything to do with the flood." And then the more that people dig into it, they're starting to find that it's some kind of new technology. It was with drones. It was with electrified this, electrified that. Folks, what do we do? What do we do? So in our space, these lives are generally for like I consult with other businesses and I work a lot with people in the WordPress space and agency life and things like that. So for the last week or so, I've been working on an internal course about how to start a successful WordPress agency. Now, this is a deep course. As I have the syllabus laid out, it's going to be like 47 lessons wrapped up into how to successfully build and launch an agency. Not just a WordPress agency, but an agency. Like, so if you're interested in agency life, what does that look like? Well, I've already told you, I get up in the morning, I have a cup of coffee. I go outside in my beautiful backyard. I hang out. I come in here. I make some messages. Pardon me. I make some videos. I work on some content online. I meet with clients. I consult with people. Hey, what do you build? How do you build it? How do you sell it? Who's your customer? Are we going to load this up for search engine optimization? Are we going to rebuild this website? Are we going to add some e-learning for internal training for your staff? Are we going to add some product training? Do we need a community tool inside your website so that your customers can talk to one another? What do we want to do? And so as we do this consulting through the through the consultation process, we kind of come up with things we can do through the work side of the agency. There, that's a really good way to say that. I offer the consultations. Generally, people are getting time with me, right? We problem solve. We figure out what's the needs. What's the actual needs assessment? This is why this is so important. In a world where everything else is a distraction and things are going crazy, what can I do about a client list? Nothing. What can I do about some dude in Florida that flies drones and cloud seeds? Nothing. What can I do about riots in Los Angeles? Nothing. What can I do about helping a business find success and add value to them, their staff, and their clients? Tons, tons. And so I go back to an oldie but a goodie, right? That saying that I started in the pandemic age was, we've got to find the opportunities within the obstacles. I still live by that on a daily basis. We've got to find the opportunities within the obstacles. Now, if you are launching or running your own agency, and this is kind of like a talk that's being extended from the courses that I'm putting together. Here is where I have a distraction, right? And I think about this when I'm on the podcast with Toby Crines for the WP Minute. When I'm making that show with Toby, we have a lot of interaction there, and sometimes there's this feeling like an agency is there for tasks. Now that could be. So I don't want to talk down to people, but hey, I need someone to change the button on this website. Great, change the button on the website. Hey, we need someone to change the heading on page 3 or whatever. Okay, great, go ahead and do that. But at some point, you're going to want to scale your agency. And I go back to, I'm not an agency in the sense of like a WordPress agency or a website agency. I am a business consultant. I am going to meet with you. We are going to explore what your needs are, and then we're going to try to answer those needs fully. Let me explain. Often, when you go at things from the perspective of being a website agency, someone reaches out to you and they say, "Hi, I've got this company and I know that I need to have a website." And you go, "Okay, great. We have a package. It's a 5-page package for a standard brochure site. It's got a home page, an about page, a services page, a contact page, and then the blog." And then they go, "Oh, well, that sounds great." And then you start working on it, right? And so you give them this quote. Maybe it's $1,500, maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $47,000. I don't know what you charge, but you start working on that. As you go through the project, scope creep comes in. Oh, I was looking at this website to buy a pair of shoes, and I noticed that their website does this. It would be really cool if our website did that. Hey, I noticed this other website when I went to the dentist, I was able to make an appointment through the dentist website. It would be really cool if my website could take appointments. Hey, um, I bought into, I don't know, a timeshare. I'm just being crazy now. I bought into a timeshare, and the timeshare has a community page where the other owners of the timeshare get to chat with each other about their adventures of using the timeshare. I think it would be really cool if my website had a community feature. So if you are a website agency and not a consultant, you're going to sell the 5-page website for whatever the dollar is. Like I said, 500, 1,500, 5,000, 47, pardon me, $47,000. You're gonna sell whatever the website is. But through the process of putting the website together and communicating with the customer downstream, they're going to come up with weird questions and things like that. So we flip the script at Manana No Mas. At Manana No Mas, we consult with the client before we touch the keyboard. So we do a quick discovery call. Hey, what's the type of thing that you think you need? Um, let's ask some questions, open-ended questions. Let's ask some open-ended questions. Let's get some detailed answers, and let's see what pathway we're going to work down. If they're a marketing brochure style website client, fine. If that's what the need assessment shows, that's fine. But if through that discovery call, right, and I got to be really clear about this process. If through that discovery call, we start to identify, oh, they need a learning product, they need an e-commerce product, they need a community product. So if they start to need those kinds of things, or, and I want to take you down this path because, like I said, we are business consultants first, website providers second. A lot of times, a lot, and I'm going through this as I'm training people up to run their own agencies. I run into a lot of agency owners that have no processes whatsoever. None. No process, no nothing. Every client's a new adventure. If you if you hate routine and you have a wicked case of ADHD, maybe that's good for you, but it's not good for business. It's not good for business. So a lot of times when I'm talking to a new startup or a production oriented business, whatever the widget is that they make, I'm going to start to ask these questions. And I want you to pay attention to the way that I communicate with clients. So I'm going to say, oh, that's great. You need a website. That's awesome. What does your company physically do? And they're going to say, we make these widgets. And then we sell these widgets. We distribute these widgets through a network of distributorships. Blah, 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 blah. Right. And so then I'm going to say, oh, well, what's the process for making the widgets? If you are an agency that just makes websites and doesn't consult with the client, what I just said doesn't make any sense to you. You're like, why does Kirk care how they make the widgets? It has nothing to do with the website. It has everything to do with the website. I want to understand, how does your business work? How do you make those widgets? How do you package those widgets? What's your cost on those widgets? I start to ask them questions about their business. Where do these margins come from? What is your main profit center? Why? Because if I'm going to partner with them and build a piece of electronic information for them, I want to make sure it speaks to the thing that generates the most profit and margin for them. So track with me here, folks. Track with me. So now they make these widgets and they sell these widgets through a distributorship process. Great. How do you train those distributors to market your product? Boom. Open-ended question. I'm just looking for answers. So now they're going to say, oh, well, that's a great question. We have this brochure. We've got directions that get shipped out with the widgets. We have, there's going to be some explanation for this. Some are going to say, I didn't really think we needed directions. I thought it was straightforward. There is nothing that you can create that you don't need instructions for. When Nissan sent over that van in the 80s, that boxy looking van, I forget what they called it. They probably called it the Nissan boxy looking van. The sliding door on the side of it, like a regular van, like a mom van, right? So you would shut the door, but next to the door was a sticker, and it said with an X through it, meaning don't hold the door like this and slide it shut and lock your hands in. Everything needs instructions. That's what I'm getting at. No matter how much like common sense it looks like, everything needs instructions. And so then we say, well, how do the people in the field, how do they know how to sell your product? You're probably going to want to come up with some sales training for those guys. All right, now your product sells to an end user, to a customer. How does your customer really know how to use your products? Are you depending on the distributorship to educate the customer? Or do you want to provide customer direct education and kind of create that stickiness between you and the end user when it comes to information and service? All of a sudden, the wheels start turning. Things start to morph a little bit, right? Now let's say that widget is a consumer product that has to be maintained under some kind of warranty for up to a year. A toaster, a microwave, a fan, a fan like what I have here. right? So something that you have to stand behind after it's sold. So let's say the widget gets produced, you sell it through a distributorship, people buy it, and now it breaks. Does it get sent to you for repair, or do you have remote repair stations to take care of these warranty type issues? These questions are important because here's the deal. If they have remote warranty repair stations, well, what do they need? They need training on how to repair these widgets when the widgets break. So this is why I'm asking these questions, because I don't want to provide someone a website for five or six or $7,000. That's a marketing website that's like, hey, look at our widgets. Because who are you trying to attract? Because that becomes part of the questions too. Who are you trying to attract with this product, with this website? Because you told me that you create these widgets and you sell them through a distributorship. So are you trying to make the website for the distributors? Or are you trying to make a website for end users, for customers? Because when customers come to you through the website, you can't even sell to them directly, right? So if you set up your business through distributorships, then if you have a website that goes to the general public as the audience, part of that then becomes a distributorship directory, right? Have to find a retailer near you, right? Put in your zip code, find a retailer near you, blah, blah, blah. But wait a minute. If you didn't ask those questions and you started a 5-page marketing website at the very beginning because you are a website agency and not a business consultancy, if you started that 5-page website and you got 5.5 pages done, 4.5 pages done, and all of a sudden they come to you and they go, "Ah, you know what, we kind of need a directory of some kind so that we could have a page when customers come there. It's going to say find a retailer near you and then sort through all that." Well, now you need, database listing of all the available retailers. You need to map those by zip code somehow or by address. You're going to need to put in an advanced search feature so that customers can find these distributorships and retailers. You're going to need all that stuff. Was that part of the original build? Are you just going to throw that on for free? Are you going to upsell that now and rock the cart, right? The communication you're having with the client? See, here's where I want to go with this. Again, this morning, I'm outside having a coffee. I want you to understand how all this stuff happens in my head because there's a lot of people that I communicate with on a regular basis, and I've been communicating with them for years. And it takes a while to understand, like, how does Kurt's brain work? How does Kurt's brain work? Why does he come up with these things, or why is he so emphatic about certain things? I'm outside drinking my coffee, enjoying a beautiful day. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. And I'm enjoying a gorgeous day. And I'm just, going through my messages and clearing some notifications out. And then I see the thing about the cloud seeding, whatever. And then I see the thing about there is no such thing as an Epstein list. Okay, whatever. And I'm trying to dismiss all that, but the distractions are still coming in, right? Whether I want to acknowledge it or not, the distractions are still coming in. There's a couple of people from the WordPress space, upset about how things are going at WordPress. This change, that change. We only do one major update every year now. Now something else is going to happen and some new. Okay, all that needs to go away. I need to focus on what can I focus on? What can I focus on that's going to add value to my family, to my clients, to my community here? What can I do that's going to add value in that way? And then hmm, I started thinking about this really awesome course we're putting together, Living the Agency Lifestyle. Living the Agency Life, I believe is what it's called. See, everything's in flux, but living the agency life, we're building that course out. I'm doing the podcasts, right? So I work with WP, WP Tonic, the Membership Machine Show, the WP Minute, Lifter LMS, Manana No Mas. So I'm doing that, got that thing going. And then I had to think to myself, all right, in terms of business with Manana No Mas, how much do I want to really embrace this idea of being a business consultant over a website provider? And here's the crux of it. Whether people are looking for a website provider or a consultant, I need to be the consultant. I want you to understand how this is coming across. I'm not trying to be a hard ass. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm higher or more elevated than others. I just want you to understand where my head is with this. And I'm trying to encourage other people, especially people in the agency space. I talk to a lot of people in the agency space. And so, and remember, you can call yourself an agency for anything. Okay. So, I talk to a lot of people in the agency space. And when we talk about things one on one, I'll be like, well, what are your processes for this? Or what are your standardized tools for that? Or, hey, what does your statement of work contract look like? You know, because we're talking shop, right? So how do you guys handle these contracts? How do you handle these proposals? How do you handle? And there's always something different. There's really no consistency in how people address a lot of these different things. How do you handle an amendment for work? If you have a statement of work that says I'm going to do A, B, and C, but you get the job done and they're like, oh, where's E, D, and F? Right? So where's that at? You have to have a process that drives back to this is what you paid for. This is what we offer. We can, of course, do that, but that's going to extend the statement of work. I can quote that for you. You know, how much time can you give us to get it done? Like these are the questions that need to come out, but it comes through communication and consulting. I feel like I'm beating a horse here, but I want to be like super clear. Whether a client is hiring me just because they need a website or they're hiring me as a consultant, I am still a consultant. So the process at Manana No Mas is we let people have a 30-minute meeting. So you want to book a chat? Book a chat. manananomas.com/chat. I encourage everybody to book a chat. I'm pretty good with this. I can give anybody 30 minutes. And I think that's something to really take heart with. I can give anybody 30 minutes. So manananomas.com/chat. So people book the chat. We get on the Zoom call. We chat for 30 minutes. Now, if they're local, I'm going to meet them local. I'll say, hey, would you rather meet at the coffee shop? Would you rather go here, go there, whatever? Sometimes local people still like to be on Zoom, right? Because they don't want to be driving around town. They got other things to do too. So maybe it is still on Zoom. So we do the call, usually on Zoom. We do the 30 minutes. Sometimes I'm a little generous. We might go 35, 40, 45 minutes. But that is to ask some very good, detailed, open questions. From those open questions, we can determine, great, this seems pretty straightforward. Let me jump right to the proposal process, get you a quick proposal, make sure it meets your needs. If you like what you see, go ahead and sign the proposal. We will then forward you an invoice. Once that invoice is reconciled, we can do the work. Now, upon invoice reconciliation and starting the project, it's going to take X amount of days or X amount of time, or our deadline will be blah, blah, blah. One thing to know about Manana No Mas is we never go to clients and ask for more money or for more time. We will make things happen. We honor the budget and we honor the deadline, period. If the customer morphs their mind or changes things, we can renegotiate and have that discussion. But if everything stays as sold, we don't ask for more money and we execute on time. That's what we're known for. That's what we do. We haven't missed a deadline since 2008. So if it's not straightforward, if that original 30-minute conversation turns into, well, we've got another department that's in charge of marketing that does our style guide. We have another department that does after sales and service work for our company, you know, based on how we make these widgets. We have a production manager that can answer that question for you. We have a CTO that's going to have some questions about, the website and the security and the hosting. So you know what that turns into? Paid discovery. Paid discovery. You say, great. It sounds like we're going to have to do some extended needs assessments here. It sounds like we're going to have an extended process to investigate what your needs really are. So this paid discovery process is going to give me and my team the opportunity to interview your CTO, your director of after sales, your production manager, your service trainer, maybe the GM. I don't know, right? But we're going to say who are the stakeholders that we need to address, who are the people that we're going to meet with, and we're going to ask extended, open-ended questions to all of the stakeholders, find out what everybody's looking for in this magic product that they want to have. And then we're going to go to the drawing board and create an extensive proposal that says, this is what we're going to provide. Now, the proposal is not a statement of work. The proposal is like features and benefits, right? So you're the customer, we're Mañana No Mas, customer, provider, right? Customer will this, provider will that. We will on this, this is be our basic build criteria. And I don't go into like all the specs. I'm going to say, we're going to install a learning management system, a community tool, a this or that or the other. And I submit that proposal. When they sign that proposal, I send them an invoice, they send me a check. Boom. Now we are in business, right? So once they become a client, because they're not a client until they write the check. So once they become a client, then I'm going to build them up in our client portal, and I'm going to build the project out in our portal where each task is listed. And then there's certain milestones that I'm going to flag. So it could be create the hosting account, reserve the URL, add WordPress, add these 5 plugins, down the list, right? So these are the tasks. The customer also gets visibility in the client portal for all of that. And so now they say, oh, the project started, we're at 0% done. Perfect. And then we set up the hosting package and the 5 plugins and the whatever. And next time the customer signs in, there's going to be this pie chart that says, oh, the project's 5% done. Right. So these little dopamine hits are coming because the customer is able to see the progress in real time as we work on the project. Now, as we put all that together and build all those tasks out, we create a statement of work, SOW. That statement of work is where the details are. So now instead of saying we're going to add an LMS for you, now we're going to say we're going to add Lifter LMS with the groups feature, the notes feature, the private areas feature, and Stripe as a payment gateway. Let's just call that an example. So, right, so that's going to be in there. Then we're going to say that we're adding your community feature. So is it Buddy Boss? Is it Fluent Community? Is it social learning from Lifter LMS? We're going to determine which tool fits their use case best based on the paid discovery we did, right? So then we're going to say, okay, so these are these tools, this is that. One of the tasks in our process is going to say provide client thorough statement of work. And so then we put all that into a report, all of the details, and we send that to the client and we say, here's the statement of work based on the proposal that you approved. All of the tasks have been added to the client portal. We encourage you to view the client portal to see our progress in real time. And I would appreciate if you could verify and sign off on the statement of work to make sure it aligns with what you were thinking or what we explained to you in our discovery meetings. Everybody's clear now. Everyone knows what's going on. So let's say something crazy. Let's say that we get all of it done, statement of work, we're coming up on finishing the job, and they say, oh, hey, we have a manufacturer out of California that provides X, Y, and Z subcomponents for our widgets. And we need to connect to their website via API so we can manage inventory on our end and their end. Let's just say that that's something that comes up. That wasn't part of the original statement of work. It wasn't part of the discovery process. It was something they forgot to mention, and it comes up at the very end. Folks, when you have a process like what I just explained, well, now you're able to go back to your notes. You're able to say, well, I recorded the Zoom calls. I checked through all my notes. I scoured through our statement of work, and this appears to be outside the scope of work that was authorized. I'm happy to quote on this and let you know how long it would take to get it done. Is that something you want us to proceed with? See, that's how I handle all that. And you kind of offload the things that you need to offload. Now, let's say that they look at it and they go, "Oh, it's not exactly the way I thought it would be. I thought this would be blue and I thought this would be orange." Something weird like that. Well, fine. Am I going to make that say that's outside the scope of work and you're screwed? No, no, no. I'm going to be like, "Oh, we could change that for you," right? Especially if I build it in bricks and I'm using class-based, site building rules, right? So if I'm using class-based rules and I can say, "Well, everything that's orange change to blue," that just goes super easy, right? So when we use process, we're able to knock things out of the park. And again, I'm going to go back to where I was with my coffee in the backyard. When I use process at this level in Manana no Mas, I find that the clients are thankful for it. Some are going to say, "Oh, you act bossy," or "You act like you're in charge," or "You're supposed to be the provider and you're acting like the leader." People want leadership. People want to know where the guidelines are. People want to know that they're in between the guardrails on the highway at high speed. So providing guidance and boundaries and details to clients is a welcomed experience, not something that puts them off. There's a way to present things in a positive way. There's a way to, tell somebody they're out of luck without making them feel like a schmuck. That's a bumper sticker. So there's a way to do it. And over time, through verbal muscle memory, you're able to come up with kind of these word tracks that help you communicate your position without alienating the person receiving that. And I think that that is really, really important. But again, I go back to I'm in the backyard. It's beautiful out. It's gorgeous. I'm drinking my coffee and I'm seeing the distractions roll in, the cloud seeding, the client list, of this, to that. And I go back to what I opened with. All those distractions, what are they doing to help me grow my business? Nothing. What positive effect can I have on those things myself sitting here in my house in Kansas? Nothing. Nothing. I mean, sure, I can vote differently, next session or whatever, right? I can vote Congress out. I can do things like that. But what can I do today that's going to add value to those things? Nothing. Nothing is. But what can I do in my community or through my business that's going to add value to the small businesses, the startups, and the enterprise clients that we deal with on a national level? What can I do that's going to add value to them and drive revenue through my business and consequently through my home? You see, when we can focus on what we need to do, things become much more clear. I say here, cloud seeding, the client list, and agency life, right? When you run your own agency, you have the ability to get distracted by lots of things. The level of distraction with AI, new books, new tools, new plugins, new page builders, new versions of stuff rolling out that you've already used. You got to go back and say, "Oh, what did I miss? What do I got to go over here?" Lifter LMS just released a new version of social learning this week. So if I'm going to be a Lifter LMS expert, I got to dive in there and I got to use it and I got to figure it out. Like, did this button change? Did this tick box change? Did this, right? So to be an expert on something, you have to stay with it. So when I'm running an agency, there's a ton of distractions. And what I'm saying is we have to find a way to focus in on process. So what is the process? For me, it comes down to time blocking my week. How much of my time is for marketing? How much of my time is for networking? How much of my time is for personal development? And how much of my time is actually the work that I'm going to spend on customers' products? Which, to your surprise, is not a high percentage of time in the week. It really isn't. Because when you're an agency and you have a team of people, you're delegating and project managing more than you're actually doing the work. But still, I have to time block my week in order to stay focused and stay on point. And part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation today And part of the reason that it's going to be kind of blown out in the replay for the webinar press that I hold on my website is because I want people to understand that they are in control of their agency. When you say, I'm going to have my own agency, you're in control of your own agency. People will often say, oh, I'd rather have a job. It's more secure. What part is more secure? Oh, I get a standard paycheck. Hold on. How long do you get a standard paycheck? Forever or until they're done with you? You see, if you run your agency on purpose and you run it with process, you create the stability that a job could never give you. You see, because I have the freedom to do other things. If I want to teach the power sports class on Tuesday, I do that. If I want to teach the marine classes on Wednesday, I do that. If I want to do WordPress meetups on Tuesday nights, like last night, I run the WordPress meetup in town. I'm able to do these different things that create a stability for me as an agency owner, something that I wouldn't have if I worked for somebody else. Even big plugin companies have giant swings in when they have sales or no sales. And then, so what happens to the staff in the ups and the downs, right? When I run my own agency, are there ups and downs with client flow? Yes, absolutely. But if I run it like a real business and I look for other verticals to play in, I'm able to stabilize more of that revenue stream and give myself a less stressful adventure. So I think that's it. I think I'm going to wrap up with that. That was a good thing to wrap up with and pat myself on the back right there. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm I I probably sound like a moron to some people, okay? But I honestly feel this way. I get up, the Lord's blessed me with another beautiful day. I go outside with my coffee. It's summer. It's going to be hot later, but in the morning, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's like 70 degrees outside, little breeze, birds chirping away. I'm sipping on my fresh coffee. Like, this is the day the Lord has made. Let me rejoice and be glad in it. Like, boom, it's just awesome. And then I get to talk with you for a little bit. And now I'm going to hang up and I'm going to jump into some client work. And I got to tell you, it is so fulfilling to know that as an agency, I built this. As an agency, I do this. And it's so weird. When me and Toby talk on the WP Minute, one of the things that we were talking about the last show that we had made was, at what point did you feel like you had made it? Like, a lot of times when you start an agency, people still talk to you and say, oh, how's it going finding a job? And you're growing an agency. When people are like, oh, did you find a job? How's it going finding a job? You're like, I'm not even looking for a job. Not even looking for a job. I have a job. I'm the job. I'm the job. Now, it's taken a couple of decades, but I am totally secure in the idea that I have a job. My job. I created this job. I got so tired of looking for work, I invented one. And I'm so glad I did. Right? When I got out of this like stand in line and wait for someone to dole out a job for me, when I got out of that mentality and I said, wait a minute, my goal isn't to work for someone else. Because as an agency, I'm working for someone else anyway. So let's get this straight. Every customer is my boss, right? So I'm working for other people anyway. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is having a job is not the goal. What was the goal? The goal was always, how do I create revenue for my family? That was always the goal. So, wow, I wish I could get that job at Suzuki, right? Because I worked at Suzuki, right? Got that job at Ducati because I worked at Ducati. Like, was having a job the goal, or was it creating revenue for me and my family? That was the goal. What was the root goal? What's the root goal? So for me to run my own agency, I recognize that the root goal is to create revenue for me and my family. The side goals are to add value to my community, to add value to the others that I work with, to consult with people and give them life and, I say life because it's like a piece of me, right? But to give them a vision of what success would be. And folks, if I can do that on a regular basis, I don't need a job because I created one. And so I'm inviting a lot of people to jump into this thing called agency life. And maybe I glorify it, maybe I romanticize it, maybe I make it sound like it's better than it really is. It has its stresses, it has its ups and downs. But what I have found is that when people do it on purpose, not by accident, but when people do something on purpose and they instill process to it, it's got a much higher degree of success than using that whole wing and a prayer thing. So that's it for this week. I will see you next week at webinar. And you can find these on Mañana No Mas. You can find these replays on our YouTube channel at Mañana No Mas. I encourage you to like, share, and follow. If you're on the mail list and you get an announcement about these webinars and you're like, oh, I have a friend that would probably like to see this, or I have someone, share it, share it. I have made an awful lot of content and I have not pushed for sharing and liking and all that stuff. And the numbers show it. Like we don't have a giant subscription list. So it would be cool if people subscribed and jumped in that because you get some other things. Like when you get up to 1,000 subscribers in YouTube, you get some more features in YouTube. So it would be really cool if people did that. I'm not holding you to it, but it would be cool if you did it. And with that, I will see you.